Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final HCA show of the week. I feel like you've been seeing a lot of my face this week on this network, but I'm happy to be here with the man next to me. And by next to me, I mean 45 minutes away in a car, Demetri Panos.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, a lot of podcasts this week, but we truly are busy. Trending. We've been busy. It's all right. It's all right. I expect the pay raise.
Well, kind of going off that, I think our Oscar special was our best episode ever. So thank you everyone for tuning into that special episode. We, of course, had fun doing it. We didn't mean to be as negative as we were, but at the same time, there was a lot to complain about this year.
Yeah, and every person I talk to, just to give you an example, I was with some friends on Monday night. Hey guys, you watch the Oscar? They're like, no, we didn't even know any of the movies. What was the point? And I said, okay, you didn't miss anything. Last night I talked to a friend who lives in Denver. It was his birthday. Did you watch the Oscar? He goes, oh my God, it was the worst, horrible show. He goes, it was insufferable. I was like, yeah, okay. So, yeah, the conversation kept on going throughout the week. And
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I feel like there was more conversation about the aftermath of the Oscars than leading into the Oscars.
Than the actual Oscars.
Which I don't know if that's how you really want that to go, but okay.
Not that way.
No,
there's no such thing as bad press. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And this past week kind of proved it. I don't know how they're going to recover. In all honesty.
I don't know either. I think, the one story that we didn't talk about, it's the only story left that we didn't talk about, was the fact that they pushed all these people by shutting down the train station. They pushed all the homeless out of there. They basically made it a commuter's nightmare. There was a lot of articles and backlash about that, and people with disabilities had problems getting around. So fun times for all.
Yeah, good times. And I guess we're going to be leading off with the red carpet treatment, which I didn't even know they had. Speaking of which,
in New York last night, Variety, Mr. Mark went there for the first ever kickoff of the red carpet. It's back, baby. The red carpet is back. Pose, the final season. Billy Porter, all the cast members came along. It was so weird. I was actually watching Mark take pictures on social media of how the red carpet looked and how it was so separated and everyone was wearing masks. And I mean, it was a really small event. I think it was about 100 people went to the premiere. And I just have to wonder, why, and I saw there was actually another event that happened in LA this past weekend, not this past weekend, yesterday as well. There was a small little event that they did for something horror related where they got about 10 people together. And I'm almost wondering, why are they doing this? Because it can't be cost effective.
No, it can't. I just don't get it. I realize wanting to get back. But when you say Pose, the final season, we're bringing the red carpet back. Yeah, it's final season because you've all got COVID. I just don't understand why can't we go into this and kind of ease into this? Let's make sure, let's not look silly and ridiculous by having 10 people or you said there were 100 people at the Pose thing. These things are usually a little bit bigger, usually more press, just a tad. And why I want to know what other safety protocols they're doing, because it's one thing to have COVID compliance people in and around on the set.
Yeah.
It's another thing. Are they mandating vaccination for all the people who show up? and you could see how that might pose a problem. But again, if it's your studio, your production company, you could set the rules. And if people don't want to vaccinate, then you have every right to say, sorry, a mask, I don't care. So I'm very curious as to what protocols might be taken, because I feel let's start getting comfortable, like going out again. Let's start getting comfortable seeing people's faces before we start pushing red carpets. Because really, is red carpet really like the thing right now? I think people want to get the hell out, and not I don't think they care about a red carpet right now. Anyways, they will, but not now.
Yeah, I mean, I think this pretty much, and I think I said this, maybe not on this show, but maybe we had a conversation, or maybe I've talked to other people about this. But and no, I actually said it when we went to look for a venue for the TV awards for HCA. The Oscars was that door to open everything up. Everyone was quick to jump on the bandwagon of attacking the Oscars for doing a live in-person event. But we all know it only takes one, and then everyone else follows. And I think that is what we are seeing. And I don't know if this is official, so I will not say who told me this, but I heard rumblings that there will be a push in the next couple of weeks, maybe the next month or two, for in-person junkets again.
Which makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense to me either, because from again, I just go back to the logistics and the financial standpoint. To go back to having to do something in a hotel, to rent that space, to pay for parking, to have everyone drive there, to rent out the hotel room for floors. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I mean, amp up the spend on internet marketing, on television marketing. Do that first, because that's something that is definitely dragging behind. I mean, you barely see any commercials for Cruella. You barely see any. I don't see anything for Quiet Place. No. Why don't we start there? The easier things, like if you really believe that like a junket interview is going to get someone to see a movie, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not very rarely. I mean, very rarely have I ever watched an interview and I said, you know what, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to go see that movie. And that's someone from in the industry. Yeah,
I agree with you, Scott. And it seems at this point, since we have the tech down,
right,
pretty much smoothed out. Not saying that there wouldn't be any technical issues, but there have been technical issues on face-to-face in person. So the argument sort of kind of goes away, but it seems a lot more efficient. They have the video, they're recording it, it's on a Zoom or whatever they're using for live stream, and you don't need to travel the person. And I'm willing to bet the actor or actress, whoever the talent may be, will probably enjoy the fact that they don't have to go anywhere. Like they could fit it into their schedule perhaps easier. But again, the flip side of that is maybe they like to be wined and dined. Maybe they like that private plane experience that the studio ponies up for, to get them. And then they get to stay at a wonderful suite at the Four Seasons Hotel. So maybe they like that. Maybe that's a perk. I don't know. But to me, it seems they've ironed out the technology enough to do a junket this way. And it also seems very easy to record.
Right. Exactly.
You would know better than I. You've done a lot of these, so you can talk more about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I've done, Jesus, I want to say I've done at least 100 junkets since this pandemic has started.
Look at you.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is that at first it was kind of weird, like, oh, okay, I'm going from my bedroom into my office to film something. But over time, I've noticed that filmmakers and actors, they seem to be more involved because they're not being rushed off somewhere. And this is something that I can tell you from press days, from previous experiences in person, is that a lot of the press days, they work these people to death. Like they're literally up at 7 a.m. and then they're doing junket interviews until about 4 o'clock. Then they have to meet with E or someone for a cover shoot, Variety. They're going to do a cover shoot here. And then we're going to whisk them off to a premiere. They're going to have to walk the red carpet, talk to half the same people they already just talked to. For some reason, they're going back to the red carpet to talk to them again. And then they sit in a premiere, and then they go to an after party. And by the time like they're done, they're probably exhausted. To me, having, you know, and I don't know, because I don't know how the celebrity lifestyle is, but to me, I have to guess there's some value in the ability of doing this stuff from home, and then when it's the cutoff time, you sort of have a breather, some down period to kind of like lounge on the couch, go lay in bed for a few minutes, take a nice hot shower in your own bedroom, in your own bathroom.
Sure.
And then you can go, if you have an event, go out. I think this is where I think the disconnect lies. I think talent and filmmakers love the interactiveness of going to like events like premieres and like the parties, because it really is like a celebration. I'm not so sure how much they enjoy press days. I think it's just part of the day. I'm sure some of them do a really good job of pretending that they like to talk to all of us. But, and then some naturally really do like talking to people. But at the end of the day, if I had to take a wild, educated guess, I would say if they can pick one or the other, they would pick the red carpet, the premiere, and the after party over doing any sort of junket.
First thing, I'm gonna say, what do you mean you don't know the celebrity life, Scott? Come on. You're trending in Hollywood. I mean, you're living the trending celebrity life. You know, So sell it to someone else. I can tell you this from experience. Talent, when they show up to a premiere, yes, they'll walk the red carpet. You know, no more shaking hands. They'll do the obligatory interview, the wave. They might even get up in front of the screen before the movie starts to say, hey, and wave to everybody. Once that screen goes dark, they vamoose. They're out. They're out going. They're out getting a good dinner with studio execs and whatever. They ain't watching the movie. As far as the party goes, it depends on the talent and what else they're doing. 9 out of 10, if talent is walking into a party, it's they walk in just to be seen, shake hands with the execs and the higher up publicity people. Then it's adios muchachos, I'm out of here, and that's it. Like in my experience of like working premieres and going to parties, the main cast, a lot of them are not there. Like they'll show up for a little bit. You'll get some of the supporting cast, but that's about it. Again, I'm more like I would figure that the publicity in the studio people, instead of in-person junkets, I would think they'd be waiting and trying to figure out how they can get the premieres back, because the premieres actually get televised. Like they get some traction. You know, that's a big deal because you know that movie's coming out, right?
I agree. I mean, if anyone who watches those shows still, like the E and the what's the Access Hollywood and Extra,
Inside,
I mean, those are the shows that if you're going to watch that stuff, they always have a small little clip in where like, we caught up with, Jennifer Lopez at the premiere of Hustlers. And here's what you had to say about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's where a lot of the photo ops come from too. So, yeah,
I agree. All right. So, moving on from this topic, so I really do think we're going to start seeing more and more type events, and obviously there's been so many stories about movie theaters this week.
Yes.
Alamo Drafthouse did a cryptic tweet, basically having the thing say HO. And I'm like, oh, are they gonna have like they're opening a strip club? Like, what's going on? They made the announcement that they're going to be opening in a month from now.
Yep.
And their Austin, Texas location, their big one in Lamar, has already
actually
been open.
less than a month. If I'm looking at the May 7th.
Is it May 7th? Really?
Well, Alamo's Brooklyn Theater is reviving its box office on May 7th, while the Los Angeles and Austin, Texas Muller locations are scheduled to reopen on May 28th. By the summer, Alamo Drafthouse anticipates 30 of its U.S. locations will be back online.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I think we're going to see, speaking of events here in LA, I think we're going to see a lot of switching over to that. I think we're going to see a lot of screenings going down to the Drafthouse, especially for genre movies, because Alamo celebrates genre. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Candyman down there or The Conjuring down there. Just because that fits into their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But it's very exciting. And I don't know if you saw this other news, but the mayor of New York is basically saying that he wants theaters to be fully opened in by July.
Yep. I did see that article. I did. And I guess there were a couple of caveats to that and such. But I want to go back to the Alamo because I really think that that's great news. Personally, I only got to go to the one in Los Angeles once.
Yeah.
It was one of my last in-theater experiences. In fact, I went with you and your lovely wife.
Yes.
So I'm actually looking forward to that. The Alamo isn't too far from me. I can easily Uber, so I don't have to worry about parking. I may even sign up if they're still going to do it, but they too had a subscription type of thing, like the AMC A-list and what Cinemark has, and I may even consider doing that. I found it to be a really good experience. I liked where it was in downtown LA. It's actually kind of close to some restaurants and bars that I like. So, I'm looking. I will look forward to taking the trip back down to downtown LA to go to the Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the theaters that I miss from South by Southwest. It was like a highlight for me every year when we went. We would always go. You go see the big movies at the Paramount at night. That's where you would go at night, and then during the day you would go over to the Drafthouse and just kind of like jump from theater to theater to see whatever screenings were over there. And it was awesome because it felt more small and intimate. But the best part was you kind of got to, when you go to film festivals, and Demetri now can attest to this because he's been to one, you kind of have to squeeze in food. And it's not always the easiest thing to squeeze in because movies either run over on runtime, which therefore means that the other screening will run late as well. But that also means you have to get in line earlier because then you have to get a good seat with the theaters that are not assigned seating. So it becomes a challenge to get meals sometimes. So when you go to the South by Southwest and you can go sit there and you kind of could go to yourself and say, all right, I'm going to go to the 3:00 movie before I go to the 6:00 movie at the Paramount. That way I can eat something at the Drafthouse.
But it's also, that's why it's a good idea to go with friends.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you split up. So you're like going, oh, well, we're going to go to this movie. All right, well, you're going to be there early. Save me a seat. Or something to that effect, or when you get in line, I'll be there. But you're right about food, and the Alamo Drafthouse, all of them are said to have Really good food. I didn't get to have it as an example. I think I may have gotten the popcorn. I remember you got it. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, upon your recommendation, the shake. That's right. Man, you remember more than I do. That was pretty tasty. So they are a theater that has rules. Cell phones must be completely silenced or off. They will bounce you out quicker than quicker than a dime on a tight fitted sheet. You'll just like see you later. And I like that. And ultimately it was a good visual and audio presentation. I'm looking forward to them coming back. So, and I agree. I think we're going to see the Alamo Drafthouse and the Regal LA Live pick up some of those special screenings that used to be held at the ArcLight. But I'm looking forward to Alamo Drafthouse coming back and walking through the shop, which I found to be a far superior shop than what the ArcLight had. Like they had more knickknacks and crap like that I would pick up.
They have an awesome store.
Yeah, I mean, I bought alien tiki mugs, little tiki shot glasses. It's a film lover like geek, but it's like the geek nerd like we are, kind of a movie theater to go into because you can shop and pick up something cool. You can eat, get into the theater, order some more food and beer, and enjoy your movie in a very comfortable setting, and not have to worry about being interrupted by somebody on their phone.
Yeah, I agree. I think Alamo, I'm sad that there's not one closer to me. Otherwise, I would go to it more often. But it'd be interesting to see now that we had like a big bunch of movie theaters closed, because there's been just to talk about this real quick, there has been zero, and I mean zero, conversation since we talked about the ArcLight closing. I mean, it was like ArcLight's closing for a week, and then it was like
everything back to normal.
There's been no conversation whatsoever about what's going to happen at the Grove or the Americana or the ArcLight building.
Panorama Dome.
Yeah, nothing. It's literally just been out of the conversation. So, what I'm thinking is, I'm wondering, since there hasn't been any conversation about this, since there hasn't been any talks about people buying it up or any of these up, I'm almost wondering if the chains that remain here in LA are going to maybe decide to like offset some of the ones that they don't do that well and kind of go for the ones that do. Like you can like think about it like so by me, and I don't know of theaters by you, but for example, by me, like we have the Regal in Simi Valley, and then we have the Regal in Thousand Oaks, and they're about 15 minutes apart from one another. The one in Simi Valley was recently just all redone with the nice recliner seats, and that's going to tie into something else we're going to talk about in a few seconds. And essentially, the other theater is still like seats on the floor, got to look up on the screen, and you kind of wonder, like, will they wind up like maybe ditching that theater, and maybe going and saying like, hey, here's one of these other theaters that is prone to make more money, so maybe we'll take over. I don't know. I mean, but I do think it's very weird that we actually have not heard anything about these major locations that have lost theaters.
And that usually means someone's talking about them. Everything's being tight-lipped. I believe that everything we talked about, it seems like it was forever ago, but it was like a week or so ago. I just feel that there is discussion being had right now, because I don't think there's any great rush, because whoever is going to take it over, they have to take it over, rebrand. They don't have to do much on the inside, but they can, I would say if you're going to open a theater, you can kind of sit the summer out and feel like, okay, Like, yeah, I'm going to miss Black Widow or Fast 9, but it's the fall. We talked about the schedule in the fall. That's when you want to be back. That's coming into the holiday season. That's when you can promote your gift cards. Big screen is back, baby. So I think these discussions are probably going on unbeknownst to us because nothing's reported. But believe you me, when any decision gets made, it will happen. Now, the theaters around me, do pretty well. I'm near the Baldwin Hills Cinema, which is a Cinemark, and they bring in a crowd, particularly on opening weekends, especially on their like Discount Tuesday. They do quite some good business. I'm also not too far away from Playa Vista, Century City. The AMC is, it's about a 20-minute drive depending on the traffic. So I have some good theaters that are around me that do business. Speaking of, and like this isn't a plug, like they don't pay us or anything, but I did just reactivate my AMC Stubbs A+ program. Now that I've been fully vaccinated, and yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to a movie. I haven't done it yet, but I intend on doing so sometime very soon. So it's coming back. I'm coming back. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I haven't done that yet. It's interesting because the Regal by me hasn't, neither one of them has actually opened. The only ones that have opened are the AMC's. And as much as I love the Dolby theater experience at the AMC, it's still not my favorite theater to go to.
Really?
I don't know what it is. It's like I would pick the Studio Movie Grill over it or the Regal over it. I am curious to try out the new, believe it or not, in Porter Ranch, which is over in LA County, which again, 15 minutes from me. They just opened all Dolby Theater AMC. So all of the AMC theaters in there are Dolby Digital.
Nice.
So that one I'm going to try. That one would probably be the first AMC that I do go back and I do try.
That's crazy. They're all Dolby theaters?
Yeah, all Dolby.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. To me, that's my favorite experience. My friend who I talked to in Denver, AMC's been open for a little while. He reactivated his card. He says he's been going back to the movies. He's vaccinated, been going back to the movies like once, sometimes twice a week, and he goes to the AMC. He says it's not crowded for where he is, and he's been loving it and been using his AMC thing. So I myself am looking forward to it. I wanted to wait. I'm beyond my 2 weeks of my vaccination. I got to pick the movie. So
I still think you should go see Nobody.
I think that will more than likely be my first cinema experience. It will be Nobody because I don't know what else is coming out, quite honestly. And the movie's out. I've either seen them. I don't need to see them again. I'd rather go see a movie that I haven't seen that at least pretends to be good.
Yeah.
And I've heard good things.
And then going on this same vein of stuff that we're talking about. So this is funny. Demetri sent me this article, and I'll tell you the reaction. It's like, this is terrible journalism. I've been talking about this for weeks. This morning was my original response to him when he sent me this article.
Except it was a lot harsher.
It was a lot harsher. Yes.
Yeah. He went ruding on me today.
He's Dunzo, okay? He's Dunzo.
Dunzo. He's retiring. Go ahead.
But no, this is, it's funny because I think I had my first conversation about this topic. God, I want to say it was in a Clubhouse chat probably about 2 months ago at this point. And we were talking about how people are going to want to go back to the movie theaters. You know, they're going to want the ones like the Alamo where they're going to have rules that basically say like no cell phones. And if they're not going to go to something like that, they're going to want to go to something where they feel that level of escapism. And there is no surprise when I read that article that they were saying like more people pay money for IMAX, because I think a lot of people now, and I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I think people who are really into movies at this point, I know a couple people who either have ponied up the money to kind of get a small screen in their house, or a really massive TV, because again, it's not like it was 10 years ago where a 50-inch plasma costs $5,000. You can buy an 85-inch TV now for about $1,400, which is still expensive. But when you were thinking about $5K for a 50-inch TV, it's a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And the fact that surround sound in itself has come such a long way as well, with so many different price points to choose from. You know, there's a lot of times where, and I'll be honest, just speaking from my own experience, where I've gotten opportunities where people have asked me, would you like to go see something at the drive-in? And I say, no, I would rather sit here in my house and watch it on my big TV with my surround sound. So if I am going to go, and it's funny because I did get a screening invite, my first in-person screening invite, and I basically said to the person, they gave me theater options, and then they gave me IMAX, and I said, I will go to the IMAX screening if available, and if it is not available, then you just send me the link. And it's weird because going back to a conversation that we also had previously on this show is that if I'm going to drive somewhere to see something now, I'm more inclined to drive to a location if it's, number one, something I really want to see, or number two, if it's tied to some sort of bigger experience. So I fit right into this article.
Look at you, Mr. Movie Snob. Oh, it'll be IMAX or nothing for me, please. What's this theater?
Let me tell you the truth, because this is how I feel differently than everyone else. I would much rather just wait. If it's a movie I don't care about, I would much rather just wait to go see it on a Thursday or Friday night locally. So I would pony up the money more than actually driving to a screening to see it for something that I don't care. And I mean, the movie I'm talking about is Wrath of Man. So IMAX,
which I'm looking forward to. But I watched the trailer. Here's the thing, though, right? Are we going to go back into that mode of movies where, like, I look at Wrath of Man and I saw the trailer and I go, does this really need to be an IMAX? Like, is this an IMAX movie? Or are we, like, I could see it in the Dolby, but I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No, I listen, I diva, but justified. I am a diva.
You are, and I'm sorry, that's not justified, mister. I get free screenings, but it's IMAX or nothing for me, baby.
But then I just said that I would pay for it. Okay, I know so many people in this industry who would not pay to go see a movie. I know so many people, both here in LA, people in Philly, people in New York. I mean, I know people who would literally drive over from Jersey, pay the toll to cross the freaking bridge so they can see a movie for free. I'm like, dude, this movie opens in 2 days. Just stay in Jersey and just go to see it. It's going to be cheaper. No, it's the principle. What's the principle? You're wasting your time. You're wasting even more money than it costs to pay for a ticket. I don't understand. But anyway.
Look, from my perspective,
yes,
I always ponied up because I didn't not until recently. There are a lot of echo on me?
Not
no? Okay. Maybe it's just in my headphones. I always ponied up. Like, getting into screenings has been a recent thing for me. In Boston, I went to screenings, a ton of screenings, because I kind of ran them. And I went as when I was doing reviews for WBCN and the Boston Phoenix. But out here, it's a relative new thing for me. So I always went to the Playa Vista Theater or whatnot, and I would pay to go see it in their XD, or I would pay to go to the Howard Hughes Center Theater to see the movie in their IMAX. You know, if given the choice where it was on that large format, I always paid for it, because to me it was just that. That's the format that I want to see this big tentpole movie in. I saw somewhere that Nomadland in IMAX, and I'm like, why? Like, what? Like, why? I just don't. Why? So remember when 3D came back?
Yes. Yeah.
And then every single freaking movie was being like rotoscoped, stereoscoped into 3D because of the upcharge, right? The studios got greedy. The exhibitors were getting greedy. They were taking advantage of the customer. The 3D started to falter and suck, but they were making or turning movies into 3D that had no business in being 3D, just none. And I'm thinking, are we kind of doing this now? Are we kind of making this like where what's the movie Harsh? What's the movie the screening you were talking about? The Jason Statham.
Wrath of Man, yeah.
Yeah, Wrath of Man, or even Nomadland. I got nothing about seeing Nomad. You know, I go see Nomadland at a regular house. You want to see it in a Dolby. There's no need for it to be an IMAX. I'm just sorry. There's no need for that to be an IMAX. Wrath of Man is a Guy Ritchie film. It would be like just seeing like The Gentleman or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels in an IMAX screen, and I'd be like, why? It's not necessary. An Avengers movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, a big event, Star Wars, Star Trek.
Something that's cinematic, right? I think that's the point, right? Like even when you watch
Dances with Wolves, or you want to do a revival of Lawrence of Arabia or something like that. No, but I'm being serious. That's what you use your IMAX screen for, not Nomadland. Forgive me. Sorry.
No. I listen. I agree with you. I think this is what studios do to try to get butts in seats, right? I mean, I remember. Listen, I was a huge supporter of the 3D movement when it first started after seeing Avatar in IMAX. I mean, that was. I don't even like that movie, but I just remember being in the theater and seeing that in IMAX after months and months of people talking about it. I literally slept on that movie so long because I had no interest in it. And I saw it in IMAX and I was like, whoa, holy crap. This movie's not that great in terms of the story, but the visual achievement that was accomplished for this film and what they did for IMAX. I mean, that's what defined IMAX.
Well, but we have to also remember, Scott, when Avatar came out, 3D was already in its decline, because we had that Wrath of the Titans movie. We had every single freaking animated movie coming out.
What was that all was happening?
Yeah, it was already pretty much on the decline. In fact, people were like going, why are you making this in 3D? And Cameron was like, well, I'm going to change it all, because I'm doing it my way. I know how to do this. We're going to make it, and it's going to be special. And he made it special, and he brought 3D back from a brink and helped it move along, you know, and he taught, he showed exhibitors, he showed the studios that 3D can be done where people aren't getting headaches and where it looks fantastic. Yeah. And that's what he showcased to people. Now, something should be known. My experience at Technicolor, we had a like a stopgap 3D system. One thing that I learned is that there is a small percentage of people who just can't see 3D.
Yes,
they're too they can't. It doesn't work, and it does give them headaches. So that small percentage you have to factor in. But remember, there were masses who were going to see movies like Wrath of the Titans. And I don't know if you saw that in 3D, but it was so horrible where they had floating heads. Do you remember any of this? Did you see it in 3D? I did. And I remember it was like, it was so bad, it was laughable. There was like ghosting, shadowing, heads were floating above bodies. And so it was crazy. And that's because they were making that transfer into 3D, and it was horrible technology. That's what I was
going to say. The 3D transfer, like in post versus actually shooting in 3D, that's what made the difference.
It was awful. It has gotten, since Avatar, it has gotten a ton better. But again, it also proved that not every movie had to be done in 3D. And the other thing that Cameron proved is that you can take a regular 2D film and you could professionally, expertly, and wonderfully turn it into 3D when he released Titanic. If you remember, he released Titanic 3D for a limited run.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And I gotta tell you, again, Titanic isn't necessarily a movie that has to be in 3D. When I saw it in 3D, I was like, wow. Like, this looks beautiful. When they're in the engine room with the steam pistons going and everything, it was fantastic. And to watch his documentary about the Titanic, which was in IMAX 3D, great. I'll even go as far as saying the Michael Bay Transformer movies looked real. Look, whether you like look, they're guilty pleasures to me, but the 3D in them was fantastic, and Michael Bay was actually urged by Cameron to make it in 3D, and he's like, look, I'll show you how you can do this. 3D's come a long way. I'm like you. I have a 3D TV, and I have a bunch of 3D movies to watch. I enjoy the 3D experience. I think it's a ton of fun, and it can be when it's done right. So in a sense, I hope that kind of comes back. But I think what is coming back is that big screen IMAX Dolby experience. And hey, I'm all for it. Anything that gets people to go to the movies, I'm on board with.
Well, the interesting thing, kind of switching gears a little bit in terms of theaters, the ones that I think, to your point about IMAX, that to me serve as a really special experience is the 4DX theaters, which I know have been kind of hit and miss, and there's not been a lot of those theaters around the United States. But I will tell you, I saw San Andreas for press screening in 4DX. And my God, that was that. I mean, you talk about an experience that elevates a movie. I mean, because that movie has everything going for it, right? Like, because it has like rock falling, it's got wind going with the helicopters, water, fire. It's a whole meal. It's a whole experience. And I'm telling, I have never watched San Andreas again after that experience, because I know that it will fail to live up to that experience for me. Now, I will say that I went back and I saw Baby Driver, which is another movie that I really like, in 4DX. And as much as I enjoyed certain aspects of the movie, it didn't have the same effects as San Andreas, because San Andreas, like I said, it had so much going on that it fit. In Baby Driver, you really only have kind of like the speeding up in the car stuff with the seats.
Right.
And that's kind of it. So, again, I think that was something that studios tried to put so much stuff in there.
Right.
And it quickly bit them in the ass. Not to mention the fact that tickets for that was like, I think $22, $24 each.
It ain't cheap. Yeah.
It ain't cheap.
Can I ask you something, as a person who has done many a 4DX, I guess, sampling presentations, did you not find it kind of, I don't know, distracting is the word? Like when you're being tossed around in your seat and you're just trying to like how do you stay on the edge of your seat if you're being thrown out of your seat? Like, did you mind being like spit on? Like San Andreas, you're right. It has it all. They're in water. They got wind. They got the earthquake going. How did you like not lose your popcorn?
I ate it during the trailers. I mean, I think that's an interesting, point to make. How the upcharge almost for the ticket pretty much makes up for the fact that you pretty much struggle to eat if you're in a movie like that where there's a lot of movement, because it's not like you like you can't really do that. But there is something very engaging about that, because it's almost like you feel like you have to be paying attention more, because why is it moving? Like, you're kind of like, what's going to happen? You're worried if something, oh my God, is there a freaking water going to jump out at me here? Is there going to be wind coming in above me? So I felt, from an experience standpoint, and again, I've only did that like 3 or 4 times, I felt so much more engaged than I do in a regular theater. I think it goes 4DX for engagement, then like the Dolby, IMAX for me, and then like regular theaters. Like, I am so distracted in regular theaters unless like I'm really into a movie. Like, if someone's talking behind me, if there's a light going off, like, I can't tell you how many times like I'll glance down and I'll be like, what's that person doing on their phone?
You can't. Yeah, you can't help that, though. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. You really cannot help that. I think in any theater, I know that the 4DX, their seats are set up sort of offset, like they have their own private. It's not private, but you know what I mean. It's offset from the regular seating. But I find that in any theater, Scott, if I'm in an IMAX, like, because of the stadium seating, that light from a cell phone, man, it's like a freaking beacon. It's a lighthouse, and it's so distracting. In a Dolby, when that gets so dark too, I just find that annoying in any theater, not just regular, for me. So it'll be interesting, and I'm hoping too that the people who are really wanting to go back to theaters are the people who are going to be more respectful, because they really want the experience, and I think those people are already the first to go back. You and myself, I know we'll go back. Who knows, like, even at some point, like, together, like, we'll get to see a movie. But we're always the types that we love the experience. We love seeing movies with company and with a good crowd. And I always respect that. And I appreciate seeing a movie with good company. We've been to a good handful of movies together. Even the bad movies we've seen is still a good time. So I'm looking forward
I would even argue that seeing a bad movie with people is a better experience than seeing a good movie with people, unless it's an event movie. So, like, like, we saw a lot of good movies together at a film festival, but like in a film festival, you're kind of like surrounded by like really like people have paid like a lot of money to be there, and you're in a room with like the distribution team and the talent and everything. So it has a very different type vibe to it. You like the energy in the room for that reason. But when I see a regular movie that like I'm really into, something like a Waves, like in a normal theater, it's a good experience. But I think it's fun when you see, like, I think back fondly of, seeing the last Spider-Man movie with you, or us sitting together and watching Venom, and kind of like, it's just, you're like, kind of like, you look to someone and it's kind of like, oh my God. I mean, I think about the time that me and Kit and Ashley went to see, oh my God, we had like the worst double feature ever. We went to see Gringo, followed by Red Sparrow, the Jennifer Lawrence movie. Holy crap. I mean, it was like torture after torture. I mean, we were just like, oh. And I mean, it was just like after a while, you just start looking at each other and laughing, and like it's part of the fun. I mean, I think seeing a bad movie with someone, unless like it's an event movie. I mean, I always like if you see a Star Wars or a DC movie or Avengers or whatever, it's fun to watch people how ridiculously like over exaggerated they get for stuff. Yes. I mean, geez, like walking out of like Avengers Endgame or whatever the one was before it, where everyone's crying. Oh my
god!
It's like
that was the best.
I'm like, why are you guys crying? There's another movie coming in.
There's another movie coming out.
Yeah. We all know this.
Yeah, yeah. But you're right about the bad movies.
Yeah,
it takes the sting out.
It does.
Because you love to commiserate together, right? I mean, you brought up two buttes. You brought up Venom and the Spider-Man Go Home or whatever.
Yeah, Go Home.
And I remember afterwards we had gone out, and that's the topic of like that's the dinner conversation right there, and it's great to hash it out with people who feel the same way and who are your friends, because it ends up making the meal taste better and more fun. So it's like, and then you just keep on coming up. You do your own little Mystery Science Theater 3000 in your head. And yeah, I agree with you, because I've watched bad movies alone, like Mother, and I just stew. And as the movie goes, I just get angrier and angrier. And then I get a headache because I'm so clenched. Like I get so, and then when it goes to black, I just run out. I'm angry. I have nobody to vent.
Yeah.
I got nobody to vent with. So, but then there's those other situations, and I know you've been in them as much as I have, where you see a bad movie and you know there's going to be a publicist or somebody waiting to ask you that question. What did you think of the movie? And those are the times where I like, you try to go in a stealth mode, and like, I don't want to be asked, usually.
Oh, dude, I avoid it. Like I'll tell you, it happens at Sundance. It's like if they give you a ticket at the Eccles, you can almost bet your bottom dollar that there is going to be a publicist looking for you when you come out of that theater, saying like, "All right, Scott, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that?
What'd you think?" Yeah.
And craftily, I sometimes have to go out the back door of the Eccles. Or I'll get into a big crowd of people with loud people talking and just kind of like stick behind them when I don't really like something. My other favorite experience is when and it doesn't happen that often, but when I get really emotional in movies. And I'll remember the last time, because I don't remember the last time I went to a movie theater. 2 times I've been in a movie theater where I've really like lost my shit in terms of like emotions. It was The Hate U Give at Toronto, because I was literally next to this girl this entire time. Every time something came on, she'd start crying. And like after a while, I just started I was feeling this girl. I was watching the movie, I was connecting with her, and I just got so emotional every time something was going on. But the worst one for me personally that like 100% stemmed from like my own life was Instant Family. Ashley and I, when we went to see that, it was at Paramount. We were like one of the last groups of people to go see that movie. And it was me, her, and like 2 other people. And I sat through the entire credits because I could not stop crying. And then I walk out of the theater, and the publicist is sitting there. I just kept, and Ashley is like, he really liked it. Just going to the publicist, he really liked it. Like, I haven't seen him become this worked up in a movie in a long time. He really, really liked it. I watched him like in the last 5 minutes, like he just started crying. It's like, but he was just like, I was like that. The publicist probably looking at me like, what the hell is going on? What happened? But yeah, that happened for that movie, and it was just really funny.
I really like that movie too. I mean, that was a very underappreciated movie. It should have done. I thought it was released at a really good time, which is the holidays, and I thought a lot of families.
The marketing on that one. The marketing was awful.
It really did stink. But it's the first movie that I was ever quoted on for a review, so that was kind of fun, and that's probably why it didn't do any business. Anyway, so and it would be great too for whoever's watching, listening, or if you watch us on YouTube, what movie did you lose it in? Like what did you lose it in? I mean, I could tell you, I was at Baldwin Hills. I could tell you the one movie because I usually don't. I will well up in a movie. I will well up, and especially if there's loss involved via disease, via cancer, I'll well up. But I remember I went to Baldwin Hills on a matinee. I had to go see Fences because we were going to be discussing it and reviewing it on Anatomy of a Movie. And I went to a matinee show. There were a lot of older people in the theater. They were predominantly Black, that Baldwin Hills area where I live. And these two sweet old biddies sat next to me. And I was already not having a good day. I was just emotionally, I wasn't having a good day. And there's that one scene, that monologue scene. You know the one I'm talking about, Scott, in Fences? Who's the actress in Fences?
Viola Davis.
Yeah, and she does this amazing monologue about how. Of course,
she won the Academy Award for it. That scene,
right? And it's so emotional because she just puts it right out there, and I started welling up, and I know a tear came down my eye. Next thing, I had my hand on the thing. The lady next to me, the old sweet biddy next to me. Next thing I feel is a patting on my arm. And I looked and I saw her and she leans into me and she goes, "It's all right, dear. It's okay to cry. You can let it." She goes, "It's okay." And I knew I was busted. But I still didn't want to admit that I was busted. So I was like, no, it's salt. It's a popcorn kernel in my eye. And she goes, and she continued to pat my arm, and she left her hand on my arm. She goes, "It's okay, dear. It's okay. Don't worry." And I was like, God damn it, I got busted. But it was the sweetest thing to happen to me. I kind of needed it, and it came out of nowhere. I will always remember that experience. But just her, "It's okay, dear. It's okay to cry. Don't worry. It's a really good movie." I said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. but the popcorn will get you all the time. So, God, that was it was one of the sweetest things to happen to me from a complete, total stranger. And she pretty much kept her hand on my arm for a good chunk after that scene. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? But it was all right. It was all right. So that was the one time I lost it. So Terry says 12 years a slave ending.
Yeah.
Losing it. Yeah.
Yep. That. Totally can see that.
Yeah. I would have loved to have been there though for Instant Family to see you like blubbering.
Oh. It's not pretty. It's not pretty.
So
not pretty.
Yeah. Should we talk a little about we're going into speaking about premiere events. If you were one of the 6 people that watched the Academy Awards, you saw that the Matthew McConaughey commercial, big screen is back. But there's also going to be in June, they're going to try to do at the end of June, the 22nd through the 27th, they're going to try to, they're going to call it Cinema Week to encourage moviegoing. And pretty much most of the chains, I believe NATO, National Association of Theater Owners, is behind it. Studios are behind it. Theaters are behind it. They're going to offer great incentives to get people to come back. by June. And as you know, Scott, here in California, they expect to be fully open by that time in June. But it's also leading into 4th of July weekend, which I think people will probably opt to go to the beach for 4th of July weekend and stuff. So, but I still think, look, I'm on board. I'm on board with a cinema week. I'm on board with big screen is back. Anything that incentivizes or at least starts to remind people, hey, I've been vaccinated. Hey, I haven't been to the movies. And I think by June, movies like Fast 9 and such will be playing in a theater. So I think that there'll be good event pictures to go out to. So yeah, I think that Cinema Week is a really good. I think it's a good idea. And I love the big screen is back campaign. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how that plays out. My only issue with that is there going to be enough movies out that are going to have people's attention at that point? I mean, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. I think the focus on like worrying about junkets and things like that, that's the wrong things to be focusing on. You need to be focusing on marketing the hell out of the movie and getting a good editor together to cut a great trailer, cut some great TV spots, some great clips, some great photos and posters.
I agree.
You need to go back to those days where like there was a really great, I mean, I think back to Austin Powers 2 is a great example where they did the Star Wars with Dr. Evil with the Death Star, and he's like, "I'm back, baby," you know, like, and that stuff. And then like they put out like some images and songs tied to movies where like just the two of us for that movie. Like they had all these different types of campaigns that back in the day, like they were very creative in the way that they marketed a movie. And to me, that's something that they need to be focusing on now, is getting that exposure back out there.
I agree. And you know what? They had the perfect vehicle to do that. And they did none of that at the Academy Awards. None of that. They had 3 hours to promote the movies and to celebrate going back to the cinema. 3 hours to do it. And there was not one thing about the love of movies and the history of movies and everything that you said. 3+ hours. And they just completely blew it. Like, who was Soderbergh was just not thinking. He was more concerned about people not wearing masks, other than, this is the Academy Awards. Theaters are opening up. Like, this is our time to shine and encourage people that movies are great. I mean, Frances McDormand was like the only person who came up in her speech and said, "See Nomadland in a big screen." She's like the only one for Nomadland. I mean, to me, that was a hugely missed opportunity to help to start like that spark.
You would think, right? I mean, we're not going to go into this because we already talked. We talked it to death. But I was just going to say, you talk about agenda at the Academy Awards. There's so much agenda. You would think that, and it goes to a video that I share with Demetri, and I'll put the link at the end of this show in the comments so you guys can check it out. But there was a video that came out about like the Oscars, how they lost their way. They worry so much more about the agenda and pushing their points. And to me, to go off Demetri's point, like this was this is what the missed opportunity was. Every single person who came out there should have been like, hey, like we can't wait to get back into theaters and celebrate these movies with you. And like, hey, let me tell you what's coming out. Like, what about like just pushing what's coming next? Daniel Kaluuya, what are you doing next? Frances McDormand, what are you doing next? Tell me what you're doing. Chloe Zhao, tell me about the Eternals. Tell me about it.
Right.
Like, just why did they miss the opportunity? Carey Mulligan has a movie coming out. All these people have this. They could have used that platform so much to, if they're talking about agenda, the agenda of like
saving the business.
Saving the business. Yes.
You know, like, and again too, why not show more? Why not like get Tom Cruise? I had this conference. Why not get Tom Cruise to come out and go, hey, everybody, look, this is great. The Academy Awards. We love movies so much. I've got a movie. It's been held back. We're waiting for the right time. Look, here's a special clip you've never seen before. Mission Impossible. Roll it. Can't wait to see everybody back in the theaters. It pisses me off more as to how horrible the Oscars were this past year. An industry that people said was going to die, and the one event show that should focus on the love of movies and going to the movies, they barely even talked about it, how great that is. But I think with Cinema Week, and I think with the big screen is back, they have to now work harder, because that show should have been the anchor. That should have been like the cast off, where they could have jumped, where they could have like, okay, it could have provided momentum. So now they're going to have to work harder. I'm all for it. I'm all for the Cinema Week. I'm looking forward to seeing what theaters and what studios, what they're going to offer for people to come back to see a movie in the theaters. By that end of June, you hope that things will be kind of more back to the normal we're used to. Oh, I'm sorry. You look like you're falling asleep, Scott.
No,
sorry.
I'm just kidding. No, listen. I
You and Ted Cruz.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about the Oscars again when you were talking. But no, listen. That's what I agree with you 100% that there was a missed opportunity on their end. I think Cinema Week, we didn't talk about this. We'll save it for another episode. But CinemaCon is actually happening in August. So they are really going to push, but I think the focus really needs to be on marketing. I think marketing, and I hate to say this, but movies that are going to have a larger conversation and are going to last.
Yes.
I mean, we really need an Avengers Endgame right now. We really need a No Time to Die. We really need something like that is going to have a conversation and is going to be universal, and people are going to really connect with it. I mean, yes, it was great for Godzilla versus Kong. It was a change of pace, and I think we talked about how much people flocked to the theater because of that. But Mortal Kombat is a good example. Like, that came out, there was a lot of talk about it the first week. You kind of don't hear much about it. We're only in week 2. It's already the buzz and everything's kind of gone. The most we hear about it now is that Ryan Reynolds as Johnny Cage, and if he'll do it. But like that's kind of it.
Today an article came out. I think it was in Hollywood Reporter. The guy that played Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero, yeah.
Yeah. He was talking about the possibility of a sequel and a Sub-Zero kind of like prequel. I don't know. You like the movie a hell of a lot more than I did. I will say that much. A hell of a lot more than I did.
But I think that. I mean, didn't I call that? Like, as soon as I saw it, I literally was like,
You did. No, you did. But I think Godzilla vs. Kong, if anything, and even to a point, I will give Mortal Kombat a little bit of credit, because its opening weekend it did okay.
Yeah, it did.
And I think both those, I think they give hope. And I think they're a positive sign. I think the movie we should look at, to your point about the one that's going to be talked about, is going to be Fast 9.
Oh, yeah. No question.
So that's the one that will be I think that's going to be the Flashpoint movie. And that will tell us that movies are back. So
yeah, I mean, it's honestly going to be a shot if it works, because it's going to be Fast 9, and then it's going to be Black Widow, and then I forgot what that movie is that's coming. There's something before Suicide Squad that's in the middle there.
Yes,
right. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, I mean, that's that period. By the end of July, we'll have a good sign of whether theaters are back fully or not.
Agreed. I think it'll be a flashpoint. It'll also be, we'll wait also to see how New York is doing. Yeah. If they do in fact open up, like de Blasio says, see how LA opens and its surrounding counties, see how California opens.
Yes.
And I think that's enough in July that it'll be a good gauge, and we'll see how people will feel. And hopefully many are vaccinated. So, and they're going to just feel comfortable about stepping inside of theater. I think we're already used to, in a sense, social distancing, and perhaps even wearing a mask inside. Right. So we can get our popcorn. And if the theater's doing the right thing by compliance, we'll sit down. We'll sit down with a group of 2 people, knowing that depending on what the capacity limits are. But we'll see. I think Fast and Furious 9, we're going to be in a different place. I can't yet say a better place, but we're going to be in a different place, and it'll be a great barometer for moving through the remainder of the summer and going into the holidays as to how big is the big screen back, and Cinema Week to encourage all that. I love all these things that are happening. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Let's go back, baby.
All right. And then just real quick before we run, we want to just talk on the streaming side of things, right, to close out. Amazon released its quarter 1 expectations. And it's basically, good news as always for Bezos. Bezos is a very happy man. He's a very happy man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, we talk about this, we joke about this all the time. What does it mean at the end of the day? 175 million Prime Video viewers. What does that mean? Who knows? And when you wrap it, what's different to me about Amazon versus every other service is that at least when you pay the $15 for HBO Max, you know where the $15 is going. When you pay the $130 for Amazon Prime, you sort of wonder, like, there are people who order from Amazon every single day.
Absolutely.
You get Whole Foods for free delivery. You get Amazon delivery for free. And then on top of it, you get the video content. So I don't know what that means. I mean, but it is interesting to point out, once again, that's more than Netflix has. But that's also because Netflix, you're just paying for a service, and you're just paying for a standalone video service, where Prime Video, you're getting a package deal.
Right. And like you brought up a point I didn't even think of, Scott. Okay, number one, it kind of falls under the no kidding category, right? You were in a pandemic. We were kind of in a lockdown, right? But also to your point, because you're there when you're getting free delivery from Whole Foods.
Yes.
Like that's part of it. So people may have been signing up not just to get the free shipment, but all people were doing is ordering delivery.
Yes.
And I'm not going to have to pay that delivery fee from Whole Foods. And, I like to shop from Whole Foods. And so that's a thought process into that as well. And, Of course you upped your streaming. Disney Plus upped their streaming. Hulu got more streaming. Everybody got more streaming. I just love that number. It's 175 million people are Amazon Prime. Well, really? Because how many of those people did it just because they got free Whole Foods delivery?
Exactly.
I just love that there's no metric on any of this, and that any streaming platform, whether it be Amazon, whether it be Apple Plus, whether it be Disney Plus or Netflix, can say almost whatever they want.
Yeah.
We've had the whole
with no real data backing any of it up, or we've seen an increase in like wholesale Whole Foods deliveries by this much, so it shows that most people signed up for the service because of this, and they use it as a bonus. Again, it's all a mystery how these things make money.
And my dog wants to get in on the conversation. He just came in.
Yeah.
And Space Jam, Scott. Space Jam is the movie between Black Widow.
Yes,
and
we'll see how that does.
And that looks like it looks like it's poised to do pretty well.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you have Black Widow, Space Jam, and Suicide Squad, those are three pretty like.
We also forgot The Conjuring in the beginning of June.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's Conjuring, then it's Fast 9, then you have Black Widow, Space Jam, and then you got Suicide Squad. So I mean. And it's also a nice barometer of different types of movies. So you have a horror movie, an action spectacle, you have a superhero movie, you have one of DC and Marvel. So you got one of each for each of the fandoms. And then you got something that's going to appeal to a younger family demographic, but also to an older demographic who loves Looney Tunes. So
no, I think it's a great variety. And if anything, it'll be just, again, from Fast 9, a wonderful barometer to see are people back?
Yeah.
Are they going to see these in the theaters? Will they no longer think about streaming it at home? Some of them are going to be exclusive to theaters. So I think it's a really great thing, and it's a really super thing to incentivize people to come back. If I were Warner Brothers right now, I would be kind of rethinking the earlier plans of releasing all of my movies day and date on HBO Max for 31 days. When you look at Suicide Squad, when you look at Conjuring, I would start saying, are we leaving monies on the table? Are people going to subscribe to HBO Max to see a Conjuring movie? I don't know. But they more than likely, if they're horror fans, and then some, because Conjuring, I think, broke that glass window. Yeah, it got a good crossover. People really liked it. So I think for horror movies of that ilk, it's a good barometer. I just wonder if we'll get a walk back of that initial thing. I'm curious.
I don't think so, because I think they're already planning, and they thought ahead for next year. I think we're not going to see that. I think they're testing the theory. I mean, I think they're going to see how many numbers they keep going up. I mean, the bottom line is you have to remember that a lot of people, when they subscribe to a subscription service, even if they don't use it, it's a lot of people forget about it.
True.
I mean, I can't tell you, since I've been doing these types of shows, how many different platforms that I tried.
Yep.
And like, I'll sign up for the trial, and then I'll get billed once, and then I'll be like, oh, frig, I got to cancel that. And literally I'll get billed 2 or 3 more times, and then I finally cancel it. So they literally got my money like 3 or 4 times, and I never even used the service at all. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case with HBO, because there's a wealth of content on there. But I do think that there is a combo to be used. But like we've talked about so many times, is that you just have to kind of weigh the options that you have. And kind of like, there's a way of doing it where you can have the best of both worlds. You look at your lineup, and you say, awards movies, I love awards movies. Typically, to me, most awards movies, I would say they're okay to go on like an HBO Max type thing. but you want like your Suicide Squads, you want your Conjurings on the big screen because they're going to have a lot of box office return and word of mouth. So,
yeah, and you want those if they're changing windows. You want that initial upfront. But again, the only people who are really gonna feel the sting are going to be the exhibitors, because if a movie is going to play out, and go above and beyond 45 days, when the terms are more into their favor, to me, they have every right to grumble. But it's all, I just think that this year, if you love looking at box office and analyzing it, like this is an amazing, great year to do that. So it'll be fun to find out. It'll be fun to find out.
Absolutely. And then the last note to end on is, and I'm tying this back around too, because this is something that we talked about in the past. Peacock subscribers, 42 million. I mean, this is a big deal, because Peacock, I felt like, came out in the middle of the pandemic.
It did.
And it just sort of snuck out there. And I didn't think it had a very good rollout. But it's interesting because if you remember on a previous episode, I talked about how people love watching certain types of programming. They love their Big Bang Theory, so they probably subscribe to HBO Max so they can watch that, or their Sopranos and things like that. And I think it's fascinating that they're saying thanks to The Office, because, I mean, The Office is so ingrained in pop culture. And then, of course, the WWE is ingrained in pop culture. So this to me is refreshing to see a company come out and admit, hey, it's not Saved by the Bell remake that did it, or Punky Brewster remake. it's The Office and the WWE. So I think that's, again, those are going to become bigger conversations that we're going to see a lot more of, and we're going to be talking a lot more of in the future as companies become more honest about their numbers and what's driving their numbers. You're going to be very surprised to learn that it's going to be a lot of television stuff that people love to watch over and over and over again.
Yep. I don't disagree. And if it's at the right price point, they'll be able to watch that old show again. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. We're done for this week. It was a busy week. We've been on a lot of shows. Check this out on Friday at 11 o'clock. Remember, next week, just to give a rundown of everyone who, if you haven't checked out the other shows, we have Pop Council. That is on Mondays at 11 a.m. Tuesday, you don't have to tune in, at least not yet. There's going to be a change in that coming June 1st. That's a surprise. On Wednesday, Kevin Taff and Heather Wixon are back for Horrifically Horrifying at 11 a.m. What to Stream is back. This week, there's going to be Lupe and Jana will be taking over that show. And then these guys, these middle-aged white guys, will be back.
Hey. There you go.
Next Friday at 11. Thank you as always for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate your comments as always. Thank you so much.
Please, we do. Thanks. Bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.